תקופה, נראה לי לכולם ככה זה תקופה עמוסה, לא? עמוס. שנה, זה לא? מעניין, לא חשבתי שזה ככה כל כך, זה לא סוף של הטקסיות. אבל עדיין, כאילו, כולם רוצים לזכור שנה כזה. Yeah, this one? Oh.
Focusing on what's going on. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lesson tonight. It'll take us on a journey. Okay? The journey is changing gears somewhat from where we've been going up till now with our book of Tanya. If you remember, anyone remember which chapter we're up to at this point?
5.
Huh?
Lesson 5.
Lesson 5. Which chapter of Tanya? It's 53 total, huh? 36. Yes. 36. Correct. Exactly right. So actually, my grandfather's book, you remember this one, the way at least it's been translated into English. So volume 1 is chapters 1 through 35. And actually, volume 2 is chapters 36 till the end of time. So it's actually split according to also theme. So, because 36 really changes gears.
And was that because of the single sperm in the next phase?
Right, so that was part of phase 1.
Right, yeah.
And now we're switching gears. Okay, so what are we switching gears? What's going to be happening now? So in order to know where we're going, what do we have to do?
We have to know where we've been.
We need to know where we've been and where we are, where we stand. Exactly. And in a super quick recap, lesson 1, what did we walk out of lesson 1 knowing? 2 parts, 2 souls. More correctly, right? 2 souls, and we walked out knowing the problem, the conflict. What was the conflict in the sentence?
Each soul wants to take over.
Take over, and what's wrong? Let them take over.
Conflict. I don't want to let the animal soul take over.
Okay.
I want to manage the conflict.
Because there's 2 inside, and there's only 1 set of outsides. That was the conflict. The constant conflict. Who's going to manage that expression? Which soul is going to be expressed? It's only possible for one of them to be expressed. That's the conflict. Lesson 2, we came and we learned a technique to manage the conflict. What was that technique?
The long way and short way?
4 long way, short way. Simple technique.
The long way is to...
The 4 long way, short way. That was lesson 3. That was think or sink.
To adjust our thoughts.
To impulse control. To utilize our inborn nature to be able to control our impulses. And utilize that for managing the conflict. So the very fact that I have something that pops in my head doesn't mean I need to explore.
Well,
the fact
managing the thoughts, right?
Manage
being between the thoughts and the impulses.
Correct. So the idea that what you mean impulses, you mean the instinct. So you're gonna have that because you got the animal soul. That doesn't mean you need to expand it and give it a seat at the table like we get described it. And so we describe utilizing our inborn ability, mind rules over heart, to be able to manage this conflict and don't allow the animal soul to gain its expression, right? So the soul's expression, thought, speech, and action. Then we went further and we said, okay, so very good. I'm controlling myself. But it's not tenable. I'm going to fall at some point. It's impossible. And therefore we discussed, Amy's with us, Michael's with us, all the way from Panama, bringing us some warm weather. Michael, good to see you. Amy's even colder weather. Good to see you too. Amy's in New York, I think.
Hi, everyone.
Where are you?
Yeah, exactly. New York.
Yeah. Okay. So Michael's warning us up. Amy's reminding us that our weather's not so cold anyways. So Baruch Hashem, between everyone, we're good. Thank you, guys. Okay, so we're discussing, in order to realize where we're going, we need to decide, remind ourselves where we are. And we're summarizing where we've been. Lesson 1, the conflict. Lesson 2, how to manage that conflict. Controlling ourselves, controlling our thinking, thoughts, speech, and action. Lesson 3, we said it's untenable if I'm going to just be in this position the whole time. I want this, but my insides want something, but my outsides, I'm not allowing any of that to be expressed. I'm going to fall at some point. I'm going to explode at some point. So we have to bring our insides up somewhat. And that's where we spoke about the long and the short way. The long way was, remember what the long way was?
I think in a good direction to provoke good feeling.
To create good feeling.
Right, not good in terms of right.
Correct, exactly. So to create an appreciation, we describe it as that. Even our fun, we're not going to be like a tzaddik who has some passion for godliness, but we can be, even as a Beinani, we can develop an appreciation using our meditative abilities to contemplate and bring up that's the long way. Short way, tapping into our natural love.
Previous experiences that can bring us back to that spot.
Correct. Our natural love of God that we have deep within our soul. We called that there was a term we used. We called it our spiritual adrenaline, so to speak. Tapping into that and holding on. Okay. Lesson 4 last week. Anyone remember? Lesson 4. Like the week when our hard drive got erased.
That's why I was
Well, we're living it every day. We've been living this stuff. That's the struggle, right? Lesson 4 was, but life happens, like they say. Stuff happens, or that's a nice way of saying it, right? Sadness. How to deal with, okay, so we're good, we're all set up. We know how to manage, but the reality is not everything always goes according to plan. Stuff happens. We get thrown off course. Something bad happens. And when you learned about keeping a positive attitude, how important that is, it's not a luxury to be positive in the scheme of what we described the Beinani's life. It's an absolute necessity, because if you're not going to be positive, you're not going to remain positive outlook, you're going to go out the window. Okay, so we're good to go. We're good to go. So you know what happens when we're good to go and everything seems to be perfect and working out so well in our lives? There's a curveball. There's a curveball, but we've already dealt with the curveball. Last week we dealt with the curveball. We spoke about what's going to happen if things don't go according to plan. Curveball means the basic.
It's like something changes without anticipating. Maybe we have to step back and look at things from the whole perspective.
Okay. So the joke is, when people, not so much a joke, but it's to a certain extent it's true. When things are going well and like just life is going, that's when we start getting philosophical and we start asking the big philosophical questions of life. Like to a certain extent. Like when there's nothing wrong, then we turn around and say, so like what's this all for? Like why am I doing all this? What's going on? What's the point of all this? And that's the question that the Beinani comes to the Alter Rebbe. We come to the Alter Rebbe, lesson 5, chapters 35. We say, what's it all for? What do I mean, what's it all for? What do I mean, what's it all for? We basically pointed out that a Beinani ain't the tzaddik. A tzaddik is the guy whose insides are perfect, his insides are in sync and are passionate for God. Beinani is the guy who's never going to get that. He will never reach the place of really having his feelings in the place where he's. So what have we told him? We've told him, forget about your feelings. Make your actions right. That's how you should manage the conflict. You're going to always have a conflict. You're going to always fight within yourself to do the right thing. You're going to always struggle to overcome your temptations. Always. It's not gonna go away. And we tell the Beinoni that struggle is not gonna go away. But day in, day out. And Beinoni says, well, what's the point? So we basically told the Beinoni like this. We said to him, you're going to always struggle. As we're all struggling right now, right? Struggling? Look, you're struggling?
Yes.
Nathaniel, you struggling?
Yeah.
Right, we're all struggling. Okay? Struggling to focus, struggling to pay attention sometimes. So that's the struggle. So let's get this question right. The Beinoni is we basically said to him, you can reach perfection. Yeah, what kind of perfection are we talking about? We're talking about behavioral perfection. You're never going to reach proper perfection. So you know what? Settle with making your actions perfect. Your outside should be perfect. Your insides, they won't be perfect. You've got an animal soul. Make your outsides perfect. That's the beauty of a Beinoni. The Beinoni says, what's the whole point of this? Like, what's this? I'm never going to be perfect anyways. I'm never really going to be truly perfect. The tzaddik is going to truly be perfect. So I'm going to, my whole life, fight and work with myself and constantly struggle and have this animal soul which is constantly battering me and me constantly having to fight against it and each time struggle. And it's not going to go away. That's pretty hectic. That's like the struggle of life. Like what for? Why? Why was I created for this kind of existence? What's the point of such an existence? You want to tell me we should achieve perfection? I look at the tzaddik, that's a lot that makes sense. Here's a guy whose his internal world is so in sync with God, speaks God, he acts God. Great. Me, my internal world, far off from that. I would rather be going right now clubbing. I'd rather be going to the Bahamas on vacation. But no, my thoughts are right here on the study tour. My speech, I'm going to say good things about another person, even though, what? Who needs the struggle? What's the whole point of it? And that's really the question that the Beinoni is grappling with. Now we are grappling with at this point in our spiritual journey. Okay?
Doesn't the Beinoni have the opportunity to appreciate his actions in the godly context as much, if not maybe even more, than the tzaddik, which for him becomes much easier, more natural. So
Okay.
he can recognize that it's actually not paying off, but it's actually working out because he's acting the right way without having the natural instinct.
Good.
Only think.
Good.
Like a self-rewarding something.
Right. You're saying the very fact that it's more difficult in a certain sense is more rewarding.
Right.
I think that maybe reframing a little question, a little different. If we're looking, if the Beinoni struggle is like this, if I'm looking to be spiritually connected, we basically told the Beinoni, guess what? You're never going to be truly spiritually connected. You're never going to be a tzaddik. You know what? Settle on this training wheel kind of thing. You know, just do the right thing, even if you don't feel it. And he kind of turns around and he says, like, hold on a second. And we have Matthias in France. Wow, we're doing well. We got a whole kibbutz galiot.
Hi everyone, sorry I'm late. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Okay.
Bonsoir.
Okay, so if once again we're reframing what the Beinoni is saying, hold on a second. If I'm not going to be truly spiritually connected anyways, what's the point of this whole exercise? If my whole spiritual reality, my whole spiritual experience is only going to be at a level of skin deep, at a level of just thought, speech, and action right, but everything else is not right, what's the point of it all anyway? If I'm becoming a spiritual being, if I'm truly living like a tzaddik who is in sync with his feelings are for God, his actions are for God, that seems like a worthwhile endeavor. But if I'm going to anyways be this broken person, so to speak, I'm going to have one set of insides, living one existence, wanting one thing. I'm going to have another set of my actions, and I'm kind of forcing myself into this place where I'm constantly doing the right thing. Okay, so I'm doing the right things. Great, nice. really, that's a skin deep, I'm kind of created to be just live a training wheel kind of experience where I'm never going to truly have a truly spiritual experience in the deepest real sense.
But isn't he or she providing as close of a inspiration sign to the Rasha that may be possible? Because to the Rasha, the Sadiq seems like unreachable ever.
Okay.
Maybe the Rasha thinks that I can get to that.
Okay, but so the Bainani is there to just be a role model for the Rasha?
It's not just because he's in a way he's elevating himself even higher for himself because he's bringing the godliness much closer in touch with not people in worse shape, but people that are having more of a struggle.
Okay. But the question is himself. He's daily in. Good, I hear you. He's daily in struggling. What's the value? You're told, like you're told forever you're going to be in grade 11, and you're going to be in grade 11. It's actually that's how the old society worked, right? You were in a certain class society. As good as you were never getting out of your class, and that was extremely frustrating because you were constantly stuck in your class. I could be the biggest genius. But you were born into this family. You will never get out of it. And so the things we're telling, debating is we're saying to you, the reality is you will never become a tzaddik. You're always going to struggle. You're always going to have this relationship and the spiritual experience, which is going to only extend as far as how far? How far is his experience going to extend? In the middle, but in what places will his spiritual experience extend? Which places? Thought, speech, and action. The garments of the soul. Not into the true inner makeup of who he is. So what's it all for? That's the question, yes.
Can I ask, so even if the person still has animal soul, different anointing or different people, they can still be, so to speak, closer to God or further, or it's not true. So it's not either you're connected or you're disconnected. It's the amount of connection. And when you try to be a Benoni, you in theory should be moving closer to connection. So it's not full connection, but it's more connection than no connection.
Okay.
So
absolutely. We're telling the Benoni here, absolutely. You're connected.
It's more connection than Russia has, for example.
Absolutely. He's connected and he's perfect at the place of action. But that's very frustrating. Let's take a look at let's take a look at the language of the Tanya, how it describes the Benoni's question at this point. Page 93, text 1. Nathanael, lead us.
Let us understand the purpose of the creation of Benonim and their souls descend into the world, since they will not be able to eradicate the animal soul throughout their lives, but only ensure that its garments do not invest themselves in their bodies. If so, why have their souls descended into this world to labor in vain, to wage war throughout their lives against this nature which they cannot vanquish?
Is that powerful?
It's an endless journey.
That's an endless battle. You're never going to win this battle, basically. That's what we're telling the Benoni. So what's the point of it all? You're always going to be locked in battle and always fighting, and every time you have to win the battle again. Very frustrating. And what's the point of it all? What's the spiritual experience about? Now, really, to answer this question, I think importantly, the question should bother us, right? Basically, the Tanya has told us that that's where we're going to stay. I'm saying, Fred, I don't know, maybe one of you is destined to be a tzaddik, but from what I'm aware, most of us are destined to be Bainanim. We weren't born with this unique gift, which will actually be able to end up with perfect insides and have no animalistic desires in us, no selfish desires in us, purely godly desires. That's a tzaddik. He only has godly desires. He has no selfish desires whatsoever. Why? Most of us will never get that. So the question is, we're constantly struggling to express only the godly soul. It's a rough story. So the Tanya is going to basically saying, you want to know how we're going to answer this question for Baby? The whole premise of your understanding of what spirituality means needs to be redefined. What you view as being spiritually valuable and what you view as being spiritually not so valuable, we're going to take this class, we're going to redefine the whole. Okay? And the way we're going to start with is, let's take a look at this learning exercise number 1 on page 92. Any Zoom people have a book handy to read from? Michael, I take it you don't. Amy?
What do you want? What book to read?
No, the course book. But you don't. I never got you one, Michael. So you definitely don't have one. Luba, you take it away. Okay. Source page 92, exercise 1. Going back here.
Okay. It's Monday morning, and as you stumble into the kitchen in search of your morning coffee, you realize that you're all out. You don't feel like a person until you've had your caffeine fix. So you are one unhappy camper. You really wish you had a nice steaming cup in your hand right now. Your spouse, who knows just how you feel about coffee and enjoys a good cup too, comes into the kitchen and sympathizes with you. Together, you talk about how good a cup of French vanilla roast would taste, favorite coffee shops you have visited, and how challenging it is to start the day without coffee. Soon you are feeling a bit better and sit down for breakfast. Suddenly, your teenage daughter enters the kitchen with a bag. She can't stand coffee herself, but she overheard you talking. So she ran down to the corner store and brought a hot cup home for you.
Okay. So, yeah, let's stop there a second. In case it's clear, I'll just say it over again for those on Zoom if you don't have a book. Basically, you wake up in the morning, you want your glass of coffee, and there's no coffee in the cupboard. We've all experienced this once or twice before. It's a big downer to wake up like this. And you're really down. So your spouse walks in the kitchen and you're like, there's no coffee. And she's like, yeah, that's a real bummer. Hey, remember, wouldn't it be good to have a good cup of coffee? Remember that cup we had? And you're talking about it, and she commiserates with you. Or she's with you in that moment. She's sympathetic with your feelings, etc., etc. While you're having the conversation, the teenage daughter walks in and she herself has never tasted coffee, can't stand coffee, but she heard you talking about the coffee. Did you want coffee? She ran down to the shop and she brought you the bag of coffee. So far, so good? Okay. Compare and contrast what your spouse has done for you and what your daughter has done for you. What has the spouse done for you? Lifted your spirits. How? By getting you coffee?
No, sharing your feelings.
Sharing your feelings. They were with you in that emotional space. They commiserated with you. Did they get you the coffee? No. So do they understand coffee? Do they get you? Do they appreciate you and your struggle right now? Yeah, they do. But they didn't get you coffee. They don't have coffee either. But they don't actually. What about the daughter? Does she understand the struggle?
The opposite. She doesn't understand doesn't need coffee, but she actually brought you the coffee.
But she actually did what you wanted. She actually fulfilled your desire and your will right now. You want coffee, and she's the only one that fulfilled it for you. Okay. Now, and who has a better understanding of why you want a cup of coffee? Who shares the feelings about coffee more deeply? Right? Like this. If we're going to look at a Bainani and a Tzaddik, who who's the tzaddik? The God says, you know, I cannot stand a piece of pork. I can't stand it. The Beinoni, the tzaddik says to God, or maybe the God says, I cannot stand the fact that someone will wear wool and linen together. It disgusts me. Basically, God doesn't want wool and linen worn together. What does the tzaddik say? Tzaddik says, God, I get you, I'm also disgusted by it to a certain extent, right? The Beinoni says, like, I don't get what you're talking about. I don't have any feelings, but I know you don't want me to wear wool and linen. I'm gonna go and not wear wool and linen. The God says, I want you to eat matzah on the night of Pesach. That's what I want. What does the Beinoni, what does the tzaddik say? The tzaddik who is kind of he's living his entire self is spiritually connected. His selflessness is out the window. He's purely kind of in with God. He's like the staff. He's like, yeah, I get you, God. Eating matzah on Pesach is probably very, if it's important for you, it must be something really important, right? It's a valuable thing. I appreciate it also. The Beinoni says, what? If I should eat black cakes on Pesach night, what value is? They're not good, but you want me to eat cake? I'll eat cake. So basically, what it turns out is like this: is the tzaddik is attuned to God, so to speak. He's emotionally there to a certain extent. He's like the spouse, and being like the spouse, he has the feeling for what the item is, what the mitzvah is, but the feeling itself, is that what's valuable here? In the example of the coffee, what was important? What did this person want? He wanted coffee. The only way that desire is going to be fulfilled is by feeling and being in the same emotional space, or by providing and fulfilling their desire. That's what will fulfill the daughter.
But the spouse's identification and emotional connection with the concept of the morning coffee.
Good.
Potentially, obviously probably, is it potentially can have a more lasting value to both, versus building a strong connection over their values, and the fact that they both share a common interest, have coffee, especially if they're living together, presumably they are.
Okay.
And making change their behavior in the medium term, not just for right now.
Good. Let's talk about it in just let's say it in I hear what you're saying. Let's just, what's going to enhance the relationship more? A spouse who's going to always be emotionally present and not do what her husband wants, and say, the husband says, please can you, and I understand that it bothers you so much. I understand it bothers you. It never goes and does the actual thing. Or this one who says, I don't necessarily appreciate, I don't actually understand you one drop, but if it's important for you, I'm going to go ahead and do it. What's going to be more about? Ultimately, the desire is the deepest expression of a person. It's the deepest expression of a person because that's what I want. Is there any reason for it? No, not necessarily. That's what I want. That's who I am. That's what I want. If you're challenged and every time you have to explain yourself, why do you like green? Is it because, stop driving me crazy? If you're going to challenge my desires and my wants, it's the greatest insult because you're not respecting me as a person. In order to respect me as a person, you have to accept what I want is ultimately who I am. And accepting what I want is an integral part of all of that. Now, there are many in other kind of traditions, not Jewish traditions, mystical traditions, that enlightenment is the ultimate experience, spiritual experience. What does enlightenment mean? Enlightenment means that I'm kind of feeling and seeing things just like God does. That's the ultimate spiritual experience. Judaism says, absolutely not. Judaism says it's not about the spouse who's identifying with you and who's commiserating with you and is with you in that emotional space where you are. You know where the magic is? The magic is that ultimately to be truly one with God is to fulfill God's desire. You cannot be truly one with God by feeling like God and by spiritually identifying with God, which is the tzaddik's experience. The only true way to be truly one with God is by fulfilling God's desire, surrendering yourself to God's desire. I don't understand. It's not about me, because that's another very important thing. In the whole instance, where as soon as I'm feeling something, it's a subjective experience. It's subjective. There's me, there's who I am, there's the way I see things, etc., etc., etc. And there's you. Okay, so I can kind of be one with you. I can bring myself to an emotional space to be with you. But ultimately, there's still me, and there's you. The ultimate expression of truly connection to God is when it's an objective thing. When we do something, it has nothing to do with who I am. It has nothing to do with what I want. It is about me. Guess what? You know who it's about? It's about you and what you want. And if you want that, and whether I understand it, whether I appreciate it, one drop, or I don't appreciate it at all, the very fact is, when I do what you want, that is the deepest expression of connection. That's the deepest spiritual experience you could have. What is this all? What did we just come out from all of this? You didn't realize where we're going, and basically it goes like this. Until now, the Beinoni was under the impression that my life is destined to remain in a place of action. I am going to be a person who my insides will always be in conflict. My insides will always be struggling. I won't necessarily feel this passion towards God. I'll feel passion towards many other things as well. And we tell him, you know what? Forget about your own self. Focusing on thought, speech, and action. Get your outsides right. Focus on that action. Make sure you're making perfect action. And he kind of looked at him. He's like, he's like, that's the best I can do? Okay. No, I'll be stuck in this place of control. Now we turned around to the Beinoni and we said to him, when you focus on the thought, speech, and action, guess what? That's really what counts. That's really what counts. Everything else is not nearly as important as what you do. You can feel what Hashem wants, but ultimately, if you do what Hashem wants, that's truly what counts. Action is where it's all at. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? No. Yeah? Not yet. Okay. So what we're from chapter 35 and on, we're going to 36 and on. We're switching gears to say like this. Should actually say 35. It's actually chapter 35 and on. Chapter 35 and on, we're switching gears to say, until now, we've really focused on the individual and his personal struggle. We've spoken about how his struggle is. We've spoken about us and achieving our own sense of perfection. At this point, we're going to say enough with this introspection. Stop looking in so much. Recognize the value of what you are doing. Recognize what you are. First of all, the point is going to be what your value of your actions are, what you're here for on this world, and what you are bringing to the table. So it's not about who you are and introspecting and building you up. It's about what are you actually needed for. And when we focus on what you're needed for, we're going to discover that the Beinoni has a massive role in terms of understanding what he's needed for. We even just pointed out this first thing. Action. Action and the place of the Beinoni seemed unimportant. The moment we just turn around, we say, hold on a second. The moment you realize it's not about you, it's about a true connection with God, action is the ultimate expression of that. That's the ultimate surrender in the relationship that you could have with God. Make sense? Okay. Now, the next point, in order to really bring this out more, is we need to appreciate why is this action so valuable. So we said, okay, so action is where it's at. So, but what's going on? Why is this all so valuable? How does this actually all play out? And what we're going to discuss is the idea that ultimately God created the world. And did he create a perfect world? No. So who did he put on this world to perfect it? Man. How do we perfect the world? Take a world that's not perfect and make the world perfect? Through feelings? Through passion? Through actions. So really, we're going to discover that until now, we thought that the Beinoni is missing out on the main experience of Judaism. He's missing out because ultimately he's going to be missing out on his passion, and he's never going to have this inside relationship and feeling of God entirely the way that the tzaddik happens. And now we turn around and we say, no, you've got everything. Because your life is all about action. We've said one point, we're going to unpack this now, how it actually plays out more. And the metaphor we're going to use is like learning exercise 2, page 94. The metaphor we're going to use is a metaphor which is brought from the Zohar. You've heard of the Zohar? Yeah? Yeah. The Zohar, a fundamental Kabbalistic text, about 2,000 years old. The metaphor is of oil, wick, flame, and burning. Okay. The Zohar is going to tell us that we, and our experience, is all about generating godly light. Where are we generating godly light? Where are we bringing godly light? Where are we bringing it? Where do we want this revelation of godly light?
In the world.
In the world. So it's not like this experience where we do something, we're looking to kind of, each action takes us to some kind of spiritual journey. In Judaism, the place we're trying to bring in godly light is actually into the world. How do we bring godly light into the world? Like we said, God created an imperfect world, and we're here to perfect the world. How do we bring godly light into the world? How? How does that work? So using the metaphor of the candle, the way it goes is like this. How does a burning candle burn? How does a candle create light and energy through burning?
Energy lights the wick, and the oxygen keeps the flame burning.
Okay, so you've got matter. Matter is going to fuel and become transformed into energy. If you burn matter, then you're going to end up with you're going to create energy. Does that make sense? So if you're going to transform and create godly light, what do you need to transform godly light, to create godly light? You need matter. What is that? That's the body. So the body is going to be our wick. Now, the wick is going to burn. And what is the fuel that's making that all burn? That's mitzvahs. Okay? There's a line from Viktor Frankl. Anyone heard of Viktor Frankl? Yeah, heard of Viktor Frankl? Viktor Frankl was a well-known Jewish psychiatrist or psychologist. He suffered through the Holocaust, and he founded different thoughts within the schools of psychology, very much in line with Jewish belief. And the Hasidus, a lot of very, very powerful ideas. So he has a line like this. He says, that which brings light must endure burning. That which brings light must endure burning. That's really the idea here. In order for us to create light, in order for us to create spiritual light, godly light into the world, we have to burn something. We have to burn matter. What is that? What we're going to discover is like this. Until now, the Beinoni saw his body as a hindrance to his connection with God. We're going to turn around and say to the Beinoni, no, you're getting it all wrong. Your body is what facilitates. It's the source of the energy. It's the source of the spirit, the godly light which you want to bring into the world. Without the body, you got nothing. You following? What are we talking about here? So it's like this. Let's take a look at student page, 95, text 2. This is the answer to the Beinoni. Adam, go for it.
Text 2. But let this be the consolation to the Beinoni. To quote the Zohar, the body of a man is a wick, and the light which shines on a man's head needs oil, meaning good deeds. The light of God's presence is compared to the flame of a lamp, which does not shine nor cling to the wick without oil. Likewise, the light of God's presence does not rest on a man's body, which is likened to a wick, without good deeds as fuel. It is not sufficient that his soul should act for him as oil for the wick, because the soul of a person, even of a perfect tzaddik, does not completely dissolve itself out of existence, so as to be truly nullified and absorbed into the light of God, to the extent of becoming one and the same, absolutely. Rather, the person remains an entity of who feels awe for God and loves him. It is different, however, with the commandments and good deeds. The vitality that is within them is in no way a separate, independent thing, but is united and absorbed within his blessed will. It may become truly one in perfect union. Tanya chapter 35.
So this is something really deep stuff. We can spend quite a bit of time on just each of these. We're getting this bird's eye view. We're covering quite a lot of ground, and we're just getting the core of the ideas. But what's the Zohar is telling us, like here, which the Tanya is bringing from the Zohar, this idea, the metaphor is that ultimately the body burning creates the godly light. Meaning to say, the body utilizing its energy. Okay, so if we're talking about the energy, is that the burning is the physical action, and it's being fueled by what? It's being fueled by a mitzvah. So if the body is going to be driven to kind of go now and light itself up, to go and use its energy and passion to go and do a mitzvah, right? What that does is it creates godly life in this world. How does that all work? The way it all works is, take a look at page 97. And this is bringing us back to, if you remember, some of what we've spoken about in chapter 7 in the first class. What we spoke about then is the makeup of our world, okay? We spoke about 3 kinds of anatomy within the worldly makeup. You remember this? Yeah? What is that? There's holiness. Okay, what else is what we said then there was something called the other side.
The Sitra Achra.
The Sitra Achra. What was that? What was that? Was that evil? Was that evil? The Sitra Achra we said is not evil. That's just non-holiness. Good. So in a certain sense, what Luba was saying is this is the anatomy of the Sitra Achra is it's just stuff that the Sitra Achra is the opposite of holiness. Sitra Achra is the opposite side, it's unholiness. But then most of the things in this world are not unholy. Most of the things in this world are not forbidden. Most of the things in this world are neutral. What do we call them? We call them klippos noga, we call them non-holiness. What is holiness? That's an important point to point out. What is holiness? What is kedusha?
Commandments.
What's the meaning of holiness?
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna cheat a little bit because I got the answer here written in front of me. Kedusha in the Tanya, the good is identified with holy. Moral acts are those which are entirely consecrated to God without any thought of self, in the sense of separation from evil. So basically, we as human beings have the decision to make whether we do good or whether we do bad. But any time that we voluntarily do kedusha, it's in the Tanya's wording is a holy, and also it's holy and good. So therefore you make the decision to do something good, which is also holy.
Good. Okay, thank you, Michael. I'll take it one step back. What does holiness mean? What does holiness mean? Why is something holy? What does the word kadosh mean? God, holiness in Torah means, it's from the word kadosh, means the same word. Actually, we celebrated our anniversary today. How do we get married in Judaism? What's the statement that denotes marriage? Kiddushin. Under the chuppah, you need, in order for marriage to take place in Judaism, you don't need a party, you don't need pretty much anything. You just need 2 witnesses watching a man say to a woman, Harei at mukudeshesli. You can give her anything of value. You are mikudeshet. Same word as kadosh. Essentially meaning you are designated. Kedusha means designated. Holiness in Torah, in Judaism, is about an item or something which is designated for it being something which points at God. Its entire existence right now is something which is pointing to God. It doesn't have anything else to it. Doesn't point to itself, it points to I am here for God. So that's what holiness is. It's designated for that purpose. And therefore, if something is holy, you can't take a Torah scroll to lean something against, and the Torah scroll will be used for just a mundane thing. Once something is holy, it has to be treated with that designation only. It can't just be used for frivolous stuff. It's designated for pointing at, says God exists, God's here, that's what its existence means, that's what Kedusha is. Okay? If that's what holiness means, think about what the other stuff is. God created a world. Does the world point to God? Does the world describe God? Is that what's happening here? So let's take a look. And this is the super important one. Text 4, very, very important text about the purpose of our whole existence. Condemn. 99, yeah?
the textbook. It is a well-known saying of our sages that the purpose of the creation of this world is that God yearned to have a home in the lower world.
Okay, so it's well known. So you all knew that?
Okay.
Okay, God wants to have a home in the lower world. What in the world does that mean?
He wants to be present, like, in day-to-day, sure,
Good.
through us or,
And why couldn't he?
Huh?
Why couldn't he?
Good.
if we're not acting to manifest his will, then how would his presence be seen?
He could have done that before we created it.
Good. Good. The Tanya basically describes the process of creation of spiritual world and the physical world. God went through the process of spiritual world to create a physical world. What is the definition of a physical world? It's a definition of our world is a world which views itself as an independent entity other than God. The spiritual worlds are aware of God's existence. That's not the purpose of creation. God wanted to create a physical plane where we are not aware of God's existence, not sensitive to his existence, and to have a home in this world means to reveal godliness in this world, to make this world a place where God is at a home. What does that mean? If I'm traveling and I point to a house and I say, that house, that's my house. And then I watch and I see there's a guy getting out of the car and he's walking to the front door. And then I see the next thing I do, he's busy starting to remodel some of the things. And like, what's the deal? Well, it's your house. He says, yeah, I'm just not living in it, but it's my house. That's the world in its state right now. God created the world, but he's not at home, so to speak. What does it mean that you're at home? It means no one else is living in you. This is your house in its entirety. It's revealed to all that this is your house. So that's the purpose of creation. God wants this world to be a place where he's at home. So this is actually just, if that's the purpose of creation, let's think about what is the utopia in Judaism. And this is actually interesting. In Judaism, we talk about the purpose of creation. What is the purpose of creation? Where are we going to? What's utopia? What's it called? What's the ultimate state of the world's existence? No, where are we working towards? What do we want? Do we pray every day that we should have the ultimate? No, huh?
Mashiach.
Mashiach now, right? We want Mashiach to come. What does Mashiach mean? That's when the world is not going to be famine, it's not going to be war, it's not going to be that's like the utopia we're praying for. So in Judaism, unlike other religions, most other religions goes like this. You do the good things, and God's got lovely candies he's going to give you. It's like you tell a kid, right? Tell a kid, go clean your room. If you want to clean your room, we'll go out for pizza. Now, let me ask you something. Did cleaning your room create the pizza? No. Is there any real intrinsic connection between cleaning a room and getting pizza? No. You clean your room, you got pizza. That's how it works. That's how it works in the. Why does an adult clean his room? Because he wants it to be a clean room. The outcome is a direct, is intrinsic connection to what you're doing. Along those same lines, in the utopia in Judaism is a direct expression of, as a direct outcome of the work we're putting in now. It's not that we're doing good things, and then God says, okay, you're going to get some candies which really there's no intrinsic connection. No, Mashiach experience, the experience of our experience, the time of Mashiach is what? Is purely experiencing everything that we are doing right now. The world has been brought to a place where we now can live a Mashiach existence. The reward of our work is the work itself. Does that make sense? Let's take a look at text number 5. This is an important point. Lubok, take it away.
The ultimate perfection of this world, which will exist in the Messianic era, and the time of the resurrection of the dead, meaning the revelation of the infinite light in this physical world, is dependent on our actions and service throughout the period of exile. For it is the mitzvah itself that generates its own reward.
I was once speaking to someone and he said, you know why you should do mitzvahs? Because the mitzvah itself is worth, he wasn't Jewish. He said, we also believe in that concept that the mitzvah itself, schar mitzvah, the mitzvah itself is valuable on its own right. You don't need to have other reward. The reward itself is doing the mitzvah itself. So I said, wow, that's like what Judaism believes too. So he said, yes, because when you realize how good it makes you feel by doing a mitzvah, that itself is the reward of doing a mitzvah. And I was like, no, but that's not what, in Judaism, the concept of the reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself, means that what we are creating by doing a mitzvah is we are creating a state of existence which is the reward. What am I talking about? One thing also talking about what's the times of Mashiach. What is the times of Mashiach? Is that a spiritual existence or a physical existence?
Spiritual.
What does it say in our text? In this physical world. It's also very unique to Judaism. The whole utopia is a physical experience. Why? What's it all about? What's it all about is like this. We are creating a home for God in this world. The times of Mashiach is the times of experience where that has been accomplished. How is it accomplished? Every time we do a mitzvah with something in this world, we are transforming a physical, brute piece of matter, which was non-holiness. It wasn't bad, but it was just non-holiness. It didn't point to God and say God exists. It wasn't designate. It was just non-holiness. And we now have transformed it into a holy thing. Think about what it's filling. Filling is, we take the cow. We work through the leather. We work it through. We ride. And what happens now? Then you have a pair of filling. And what is a pair of filling? A pair of filling is holy. You can't walk into the bathroom with a pair of filling. Hold on a second. This was a cow. This has been transformed. This is a holy object now. This is something that no longer shouts, I exist independently of God. This is something which is pointing to God. Does that make sense? This is something which reflects this idea of the world being a home for God. The physical world is being transformed to start revealing and God's presence. And mitzvah by mitzvah by mitzvah, the cumulative effect of us doing and being involved with our world, doing and processing the world, and utilizing the world to serve God, what does that do? That creates this world to be a place that is going to be entirely a place which points to God and the truth of existence, rather than the truth of the feeling of ego, points to the truth of existence, which is the experience of Mashiach. The experience of Mashiach is a complete unity. We speak about Hashem Echad. This whole dichotomy that there's God and there's me is a falsehood. There's the whole dichotomy that there's the ego and we stand apart. Really, it's all supposed to be creating a seamless experience where we come to appreciate that our existence is not apart from God, it's within God's, the truth of God. And that's what means the world should be a dwelling place for God. It means utilizing and bringing out everything we do and transforming it into something valuable. So we spoke about in the past, certain things that can't be elevated. Certain things God says, this can never point to God. Why? Because this is disgusting. This is not something I want. This can't be elevated. It's not elevatable. Right? Those are the things in Torah which are forbidden. You cannot use them towards holy endeavors. Why? Because they're not elevatable. But the things which are elevatable, most things in this world, we must elevate. And we can turn them into a mitzvah. So take a look at text 6. By performing a mitzvah, the person draws the revelation of the blessed infinite light from above downwards, to be clothed in the physicality of this world, in an object which had heretofore been under the dominion of non-holiness. So, for example, the parchment of Philim, this is the Torah scroll. So he's drawing this the godly life into this world. It's also interesting. It's not about an experience of like being physical and kind of having some kind of spiritual experience. No, the entire purpose is to draw godliness into this world. So every time we're doing a mitzvah, what are we doing? We're not getting out of this world. We're just getting more in touch with the truth of our existence within this world as physical beings. Okay? Similarly, an etrog which was not erla, or money given to charity that has not been acquired through theft and the like. Every time I'm going to take money and I'm going to give charity, what am I doing? I am basically I'm connecting the dots. Until now, this looked like money, which was just money. You know, I could have gone and spent it on all kinds of crazy things. The moment that I go and utilize it for a mitzvah, I've connected the dots. I'm saying the whole purpose for this money is really something that's to make this world recognize God's truth. The whole thing was created for him. He created an imperfect world, so I shall make it perfect. By me utilizing and connecting those dots, I'm making a home for God in this world. I'm transforming that money into a holy thing, which is designated for God, which points to God. Got it? Now that one fulfills God's commandment and will with these objects, the vitality within them ascends and is dissolved and absorbed into the blessed infinite light, which is his will that is expressed in the mitzvahs. For in a mitzvah, there is nothing whatsoever to hide his light. That's the idea. A mitzvah is transparent. Once something is in the category of a mitzvah, it's transparent. What does it mean it's transparent? You look at that and you see the truth of existence. You see God. Everything else, you look at it and it's not transparent. It blocks out what's really on the other side. It blocks out the truth. The purpose is to look at, to integrate to deal with our world, utilize our world, and everything we come in contact with, connect the dots to make a transparent thing. That this shouldn't block godliness. The godliness should be able to filter through into this outcome too. Right? You have something which blocks, which is like the lens which blocks. The transparent lens is the lens which flows through. And you can see clearly what's behind it. Everything is pumping with a godly, everything has a godly spark which enlivens it. But that godly spark is not apparent. You don't see the godly spark aligning. It seems like it exists on its own. The whole point is, no, that doesn't exist on its own. It's only existing because of a godly spark. How do you kind of connect those dots? That's by utilizing, for taking something which is non-holy and utilizing for a purpose of holy. Can you take the things which are unholy and utilize them for things which are unholy? Can you use them and make them holy? No, those are things which the way we deal with them is God says, you can't deal with that stuff. That's too hard. But the stuff which is just in the middle, neutral, it can be used positively. We can create kind of unblocked, clean that lens and allow make the godly light to filter through into this world and make it become apparent that it's actually God's world, which is God making God at home in this world. So far, so good? Any questions? On a serious spiritual journey today.
No questions.
No questions. Speechless. Okay. Now, where do we go? Take time to yeah. That's all taking the brute physical of this world. Now, the truth is, it extends further. Not only is it taking the brute physical of this world, it's also taking the energy, our energy within ourselves. Take a look. 101. Similarly, the power of the vitalizing animal soul, clothed in the bodily limbs of a person who performs a mitzvah, clothes itself in the deed of the mitzvah, and that ascends from non-holiness to be absorbed into the holiness of the mitzvah. What are we talking about? What is giving the person the energy to go and do a mitzvah? When I wrap tefillin in the morning, when I give charity, what's giving me the energy to do that? The animal soul. The animal soul is the vitality. So what just did I do here? I took my animal soul's energy and I brought it up to a place of holiness. So I'm not only taking the item itself and making it a holy item. I'm actually taking the animal soul itself and I'm bringing the animal soul to a place of holiness. Even in the case of such mitzvahs as Torah study, reciting the Shema, prayer and the like, well, they do not involve actual physical action, yet one does not fulfill the duty of Torah study unless he actually utters the words with his lips, which is interesting. There's always a concept where Jews, we pray, you should verbalize the words. Why should you verbalize the words? Because by verbalizing the words, I'm actually investing my energy into an action, which that now is transforming that energy into a place of holiness. So I want to invest energy in an action. You know how people we shake? What's up with the shaking? You know, the shuffling? Called? So that's just, you know, the whole body, there's an idea that your whole body should be involved in the prayer act. That's again, we're bringing it all to the place of using our energy to make it make it mitzvah energy, make it godly energy, rather than being the stuff which just says, I exist. No. This can say God exists. Make those connections. Instead of it being a barrier to God's truth, this can allow God's truth to filter through. And it's up to us to be able to make that happen. And then it goes even further. So it's not only utilizing the idea of God himself, it's not only using our energy, we can even take the stuff that, where do we get our energy from? So we go and we walk to synagogue and we go pray. Where did that energy to come walk to synagogue come from? How do we have energy to walk? Animal soul. Where did the animal soul get its energy from? Food, drink, whatever it is. Physical exercise. So the moment that even that comes into the picture. Look at text 8, page 102. The energy invested into the performance of mitzvahs involving action derives its vitality from all the food and drink that one has eaten and drunk. These were under the dominion of non-holiness. But when the person performs a mitzvah with the energy derived from this food and drink, this non-holiness is transformed, thereby all over the realm of neutral non-holiness, which constitutes the vitality of this physical world as a whole, will ascend as well. So this is the entire, there's lots of stuff going on here. Every time we're doing a mitzvah, we're really bringing first of all, the item itself. Then we're bringing our energy to it. Then we're bringing everything where we get our energy. All of that is ascending now to a place where it's being elevated to a place of holiness, which is all about creating godly life in this world, which is all about making this world the place which God wants this world to be. Okay? So what is this? What does it turn out? It turns out something radical. You just look at the text, page 105, the ripple effect of a mitzvah. You just see how far those spheres, like the ripple effect that goes all the way out. So there's a mitzvah, and the things that directly enable it, the things that indirectly, all of those are playing into the same thing. What is that thing? That thing is called the performance of the mitzvah. Now, what did we just point out? Something really, really important. We pointed out action, this mitzvah, this action of doing a mitzvah is really the purpose of the entire creation. And therefore, we're basically telling the Bainani like this. Bainani, you were worried at the beginning of the class. We said, this is worried. His worry is like, I'm just going to be doing stuff a whole day, and like, I'm not going to feel of it anyways. So we first of all pointed out to him, hold on a second. When you're doing something much more profound for God than by feeling something for God. Because if God says, this is what I want, and that's God's desire, that's what a mitzvah is. Mitzvah is God's will. So the deepest thing you could do for God is not feeling for God, is doing for God. That's where you're fulfilling his will, first of all. Second of all, we discover that the entire purpose of your entire existence is to do is in the realm of action. Is it in the realm of feelings? If I'm going to feel the whole day, I want to feel now about the effect of filling. I'm going to think and meditate about putting on filling. Sometimes I've asked people if they want to wrap filling, you know. The Rebbe always taught us we should go and offer people to do a chance of mitzvah, and the Rebbe had a filling campaign where he encouraged people to put on filling. So I've asked people to put on filling, and they sometimes, you know, you always get a lot of people put on filling. There's always a couple of interesting responses. So I've always, there's one response that you hear, I put on filling in my heart. And what we basically, it sounds really fuzzy and all, but we've just pointed out is that in Judaism, that's really sweet and all, but the reality is, if you wanna really make the stuff happen, you gotta do it.
You want the ball.
You gotta. Do you have to feel it? You don't even have to feel it. You gotta do it. If I'm
When
going,
you feel it and you want to go run do something else,
hey,
you could be thinking or feeling, you're too busy to do this and that, and you gotta do it.
and if you're doing it, you're achieving all we've spoken. Even if you're not feeling it. Why don't we just turn around to Bailey? We said, you Bailey, you are preoccupied with your own perfection. You should realize that your imperfection is all contributing to the perfection of the world. And that's really what it's all about. So stop getting so caught up in your own perfection. Recognize that your imperfection is bringing the world to us ultimately.
Particularly when he converts his imperfection to right action.
Correct. When he's taking control of
That's
it,
it.
because that's what a Bailey is.
Otherwise, he's fixing it the right way.
Then he's not a Bailey.
Right.
Right. The Bailey is the guy who's
That's why
getting
the
it.
point of the action.
Correct. It's all about the action for Bailey. And it's not that he's not having a deep spiritual experience. He's having the deepest spiritual experience. Because that's ultimately where it's at. So that's a powerful, powerful idea. It's very unique to Judaism also. The emphasis on physical action. This is really where it's at. Question now I'm going to revert to you, and this is where question 38, text, chapter 38 to 40 come in. Chapters 38 to 40 says, okay, it's all about action, right? So who cares about feeling? Let me not even work on my feelings at all. I'll just go and I'll just do action. And is there any, if we started off with the Bailey saying, so why is action so big? Now we pointed out how action is so big. The chapters 38 to 40 deal with that. And when the Bailey kind of goes to other extremes, he says, so who cares what I feel? Does it make any difference what I feel? And that's where, we're on page 106 pretty much. The discussion of kavanah comes in. Who's heard of kavanah? Kavanah means intention. What does that mean, intention? Well, give me an example from that. Do something with kavanah, do something without kavanah.
To actually put your mind on it, not to,
Do we make a big deal about kavanah?
Yeah.
You? Okay. Based on what we've said, should we make a big deal about kavanah? No. It's all about doing it. Right?
If we
Yeah.
look at first chapters, we see that without feelings, animal soul can take full control.
Good. So you're saying you have to have some kind of feeling about it. Okay.
Not necessarily, but it's one of the instruments to achieve action.
Okay. Good. Right, because ultimately, he's saying ultimately you're going to slip on the place of action as well. You're absolutely right. But I'm saying, let's say the Bailey is going to turn around and say, okay, okay, so I know I need to pray every morning, right? Should I push myself to pray with intention? Why should I push myself to pray with feeling? I know in general it's important to say, I'm going to think about how important God appreciates my prayer, but why do I need to push myself to pray with feeling? It's not about praying with feeling, it's about praying, getting the action done. It's about wrapping my feeling. Why do I'll my mind will be in watching the soccer, right? Apparently there's a big soccer game going on right now. And and in physical, I'm gonna be sitting in the class.
Because the fact that it's constantly probably leads to more meaning to the person.
Good. Cool.
Um,
See then the person himself.
the person himself,
Good.
but it also provides some depth and maybe insulation against the actions alone getting chipped away at it, and maybe getting eroded by the thoughts that can gain momentum, and you know, this being on anything is not a permanent position.
Right. You're saying if he's not gonna have the feelings, he's not gonna have the kavanah, then ultimately he's gonna slip on the action front too.
And
So it's
then,
similar to
and
what-
then it will become more like a washout,
Right.
where he's
Okay.
gonna have to go back to the battle, and then you're back to square one.
Good. So we don't have a lot of time for this, even though this is a whole discussion for itself. It's a very important discussion. The balance, and this is, I think this is crucial because this is really important within Judaism. I want the balance between action versus intention. On the one hand, we've spoken everything's about action.
The intention is important in all aspects of life.
Everything's about action. So what do I mean everything's about action? I can meditate and think about putting on tefillin a whole day. If I did not go wrap the tefillin, guess what? You've done nothing. What you've done is nothing. You have not fulfilled God's will. You have not changed this world. You haven't done the magic. And if the other way around, if I wrapped the tefillin and I didn't feel it, I've done the magic. So then why should I even bother and like really creating actions with passion, with meaning, let them just be dry action.
Because it makes you more of a consistent, real emotion and experience.
Okay.
Makes you more of
So
a,
you were focusing on the person. The Tanya also points out that this is also even in the cosmic realm. What we've spoken about for God Himself in creation of the home, when the action is done with feeling, it's a different home you're creating for God. It's almost like a basic home versus a nice home. So just as an analogy, you could go to the restaurant, right? You have a waiter. There's a waiter who serves you, and there's the waiter who serves you, and you it takes your waiter up. Yeah. Make sure you get your food. Okay.
or the way that makes you go at home, makes you feel welcome.
Then there's the other waiter who is he ordering and takes a seat by the table. He's like, no, maybe you want to order this. Oh, I had this one stuff. What are you doing? You're taking over. He's very sweet, but know your place. This is, you know what I mean? This is, you're getting a little too excited about feeling comfortable yet. What's the best way? Then there's the waiter who gives you the good service. He does it with a smile. And you get the job done, beautiful, but you also get the feeling. That's which kind of waiter do you want?
You feel like you belong.
Which kind of waiter do you want? Of course, you want the waiter who's going to do the job and put themselves into it, give you that smile.
And not sit down and join the team.
Yeah, join the table is like the tzaddik, like not the tzaddik. Let me give you. If you're just focusing on like the spouse at the beginning, they're giving you all that emotional feel, but you're not doing what you. You want to get my order in, please? That's what I came to the restaurant for. The other guy is the daughter who's just gone and bought you the coffee, but has zero feelings for. The ultimate is having the two come together in certain sense. Yeah, you look at yourself.
Oh, it's not. Want to?
Okay. This is a discussion which we're not going to be able to really discuss properly. In short, there's creating a home for God and there's creating a nice home for God. The intention adds that. There's an interesting story of I don't remember who it happened with. Hasidic Rebbe. He said he once came to a synagogue and he said he came in, and this is one of the ideas that's spoken about. You look at it at text 14, wings, in the section about wings. He comes into the synagogue and he says, I can't come into the synagogue. What do you mean you can't come into the synagogue? The synagogue is so full of prayers, I can't come in. They thought he was complimenting the synagogue. So full of preface. He said, no, you don't understand. Prayer is not supposed to stay stagnant down and be prayed and stay in the synagogue. It's supposed to kind of go up on high. But these prayers were done without any emotion, were done with any feeling. Because of that, they kind of just stayed stagnant in the synagogue. They didn't have wings to take them up on high. And the expression of intent is what the Tanya describes as wings. I'm saying we can just look at it. I'll just read you the text, but it's not really going to answer our. It's not going to we're not going to have full read depth because we just don't have time. This explains. So we're on 110. This explains clearly why awe and love are figuratively called wings. The wings of a bird are not its main components. Its life doesn't depend on them at all. Rather, the main parts are its head and the rest of its body. The wings merely serve the head and the body, enabling them to fly. Likewise with Torah and mitzvahs, they constitute the essential supernal union by the revelation of supernal will which they cause. Awe and love merely elevate the Torah and mitzvah to a place where this will, blessed infinite life, and this unity can be revealed. So you're seeing an idea here. Obviously it needs to be unpacked, but the idea that it's not essential, but it's a different quality of an action when it's done with intent. And that's the kind of the balance between the two. Okay, with this we'll finish.
What was it like when you did my charity before? Real charity, when you give a donation, when you do something, you're not going to get something back.
Right.
You do charity when you do something, and you're doing it because you want your name on the board, or you want to be credited, or you want the person to come to you. That's a transaction.
Okay.
And the chances are, not the likelihood, that people will be see through that. And they'll not appreciate it.
I love what you're saying right now. Why? Because I think it brings out exactly the point. When it comes to charity, does the poor man care if you're giving it for selfish reasons, or if you're giving it so you should get your name and plaque on the wall, or you're giving it because does he care? What does he care about? What does he care about? He cares about the action. If the person's doing it the best way, of course that enhances it. Exactly the point here. If a person's giving a charity and he's doing it for his own self, who cares? That's the point here. Is the mitzvah being done? Absolutely the mitzvah is being done. Is his intent right? No, his intent is wrong. Is the mitzvah being done? Yes. The magic happens. That's what we've just learned from this lesson. And ultimately, that's where the Beinoni's life is. That's where the magic happens. Does he need to work on his kavanah, on his intention? Absolutely. It will be a dry action, it will be a dead action, it will be one without wings. It's going to be lacking. It will be creating a hope for God, not in the best way. But would you rather have wings and no bird, or bird without wings? Bird without wings is worth something. The wings without a bird is worth nothing at all. That's ultimately still at the end of the day. The action is where the key is. The kavanah makes the action complete, but it's still not essential for the action, even if you don't have that action, even if you don't have the kavanah. So this is the response to the Beinoni in his existential crisis. What's the purpose of my existence? We're going to be struggling day in, day out. We're only going to get it right at the place where we can, which is where our thought, speech, and action, our place of actions. We can get it right there. We tell the Beinoni, guess what? That's where it's at. Okay. Next week, we're going to be looking at lesson 6. And we're going to be looking at and further discussion about really bringing ourselves to the table in a different kind of way. And that's going to take us till the end of the book of Tanya. So this has been a real express version through Tanya. But afterwards, we're going to have to go chapter by chapter and unpack it all. Because there's a lot here. Way too much here. Okay. I said we're bringing tonight.
I want to read about the abnormality of Jewish life. It's kind of interesting.
Is that connected to this or this?
At the end of
Oh.
PowerPoint, the optional stuff is.
Oh, this way.
right, yeah.
I haven't read. Okay, so it's worth, these additional readings are great. By the way, I feel bad that I haven't been, sharing more, and I wanted to create the WhatsApp group to be able to just create more discussion. I think it'll be very valuable. There's so much going on.
It's our responsibility is,
No, but it's just to create more, also, it's week to week, it's hard to.
it's why I call my attention, I have no knowledge of Jewish life, I'm interested.
Good. Okay, now, we will now segue into Farbrengen style. Farbrengen style, which the panel's been waiting for hours already, is basically everyone, when your class is done, when we go home. No one's holding you yet. We'll sit for a few minutes. Why are we sitting for a few minutes? We're sitting for a few minutes because it's a special day. Today, the 19th of Kislev, is really the Tanya, which we've been studying through the course. It is really the backstory to the whole Tanya. Because it went like this. The author of the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe, was imprisoned in St. Petersburg for high treason against the Tsarist regime, what would be called, yeah, in Russia, and he was slated to the death sentence. That was the plan. How did this all happen? There was a story. The story was that there was opponents to his teachings. Theirs was the world of Hasidus, which was a world bringing spirituality, Jewish mysticism, and bringing much more to people's hands, making it practical for people, had many opponents in when it started. So just kind of a little history. No pressure. So if anyone wants to go, L'chaim L'vracha, thank you for joining. Otherwise, we'll sit for a few minutes. And Zoomers, same thing for you. You want to join us? We'll cover together. Otherwise, have a wonderful evening. Who's going to be the first one to leave? Want to go? Don't feel as if this time. Okay, so we've got grape juice, we've got l'chaim of all kinds and types.
Oh, some grape juice.
We're up for grape juice. And Canel can offer you something, grape juice, a whiskey, or a always a whiskey. You want to try this one?
If the alcohol is not the answer, it just helps you forget the question.
I saw a joke once. That's saw a joke that the guy says to his friend, he says, "Abe, you should try what I read in the Times. They said if I'm telling you it's gonna solve all your problems." So Abe says, "No, so tell me what you read in the Times." He said, "I'm telling you it's gonna solve it." "No, what is it already?" He said, "I read in the Times, it said if a person finishes all the things they started, they'll feel that peace finally." So Abe says, "Really?" He says, "Well, how was it for you?" He says, "Yeah, I looked around. There was this bottle that was open. There's this, I finished them all. Believe me." Okay, you have a choice. This one,
Shivers or Oman.
or Oban.
Oman mentioned there. Okay. I've never seen Game of Thrones stuff.
This is the Game of Thrones Oban.
Oman's on space side.
The vodka is for you, Luca. Even if you're not we're in respect to your home country.
Like you have juice? I said,
What if we lost someone? Who did we lose?
Matthias.
Matthias is still here. We lost
Michael?
Michael. We wanted to have a l'chaim with him. Hey,
Like,
Matthias.
nothing to say.
we're having a
L'chaim.
l'chaim with you.
I don't have anything to drink on, but l'chaim to you guys.
We'll have you in mind. L'chaim. L'chaim. L'chaim.
L'chaim,
No.
Adam.
We should all, yeah, we should be learning that we're studying together. Should be able to internalize it and connect with it, and yeah, really live Tanya. L'chaim.
Right.
Baruch atah Adonai.